Awesome. Well, Ryan, it's great to have you on the show this morning. This has been a little while coming in the sense of I was thinking before the last time we probably spoke directly might have been in Travis Jones's Inner
Exactly what I
Circle.
was thinking as well. That was
Man,
exactly what I was thinking.
I don't know, it was maybe 2011 or 2012 or
Wasn't that early? It
maybe
was
even
it was 2011, 12, 2013.
2013. Wow, there you go.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
been a little while, and over the last decade, I've seen you just do some fucking incredible stuff, and so I'm really excited about the different directions this interview could go.
Same.
Just for those that are listening, and we may have some other people joining us. I can see Callum's online with us here.
Cool.
As they're joining, I may request them to mute. But just for those watching either live or by replay, how did you get into coaching? Because you're still a fairly young guy,
Mhm.
and
Definitely.
you've been coaching for ages. You've been coaching for a long time. How did you get into that so early?
Mm. I would say through grace or like divine intervention. Like I was very, very lucky because when I was in high school, I was a very anxious, nervous dude. And I had this mentor at the golf course where I used to play when I played golf from probably 11 to 17 pretty seriously. My handicap was like 3 when I was 13, and I was like a fully competitive competition golfer and whatnot. And there was this mentor at the club when I was 16, and one random day he was like, "Yo, if you shoot this particular score today in our round, I'll buy you an iPod for your birthday." And at that time, I was living in a relatively low socioeconomic kind of situation. iPod would have meant the world for me. So I was like, "Oh, this is exciting." I didn't know he was being serious or not. I was like, "Yeah, you better hold yourself to this because I'm going to shoot this score." And then I shot the score. And then a few weeks later, I rock up at the pro shop and there's an iPod there. And I went home and I was super pumped to load music on it. And I'm looking at all the I just plugged it in and I was like, cool, I'm gonna load some songs on here. And he'd already put some songs in and the singer's name, Anthony Robbins. I'm like, who the fuck's this?
Ah,
Massive tapes,
wow.
Get the Edge, Personal Power, a bunch of health audio programs as well. And I just used to listen to it. I used to catch the public bus at like 5 a.m. every morning with my golf clubs on it to go practice and listen to Tony when I was like 16, 17.
Wow.
So yeah, that's how I got into it. But I kind of had this belief that I had to be a multi-millionaire before I could even consider to being a speaker or anything like that. But I honestly wouldn't ever have even thought it was possible to be a coach when I first started listening to him, even after I'd listened for a few years. But someone, I don't know, I personally didn't see it in myself, but I was like 18. When I was 18, I moved to from Melbourne to Perth, and I went to university. My uncle encouraged me to move states, so I moved to Perth, and he's like, you should study entrepreneurship at this university. And when I was there, there's some of my friends at the university was like, I think you'd be a really great speaker. And I literally just I was so confused because I was not confident. Like it's just plain and I'd done some courageous things at that point, but I definitely was terrified of public speaking. I didn't know what they were seeing in me. But yeah, a couple of years later, I was inspired by a guy called Calvin Coyles, actually, that did some work with TJ as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And
Calvin. He's a good dude.
yeah, he's just courageous because he was, I think he's 2 years older than me, but he was still young. I was 21 at the time, and I saw him do a seminar, and I participated, and I was like, fuck. And I was actually helping him with his marketing at that time, and he invited me to his courses for free. He's like, come do my NLP stuff for free. And I was like, all right, sounds great. Rocked up and I was like, whoa, this guy's speaking. He's so young. And it just opened up possibility for me. And then I was like, fuck it, I'm doing it. If he can do it, I can do it. And I did. And that was how I started.
That's awesome. That's unreal. Well, look,
Yeah.
having Tony in your ear from such a young age certainly would have influenced you in ways you probably still
Grateful.
realize, yeah, still recognizing. So in terms of your speaking, what was your angle at the beginning? Like, what was your message early on?
Yeah. Well, the angle was survive the talk because I was so fucking scared of public speaking. You have no idea how scared I was because I didn't even post on social media back then. Like I was terrified of posting a photo of myself online, let alone speaking was just incomprehensible. But I was just like, well, if it's my dream, what if I die and I have this dream like left in me? I was like, fuck, I got to do it. So what got me over the line was I enrolled in TJ's course, which was 50 grand for
Yeah.
me. I know different people pay different amounts. That's what it was for me. That was a massive weekly payment. And I pretty much had to make sales to pay him. So that created instant accountability now. And I joined the program. And within a week, I was running my first seminar and I closed 5 people into that seminar. But the only thing that got me over the line was committing to running seminars weekly until I broke through. I gave myself 3 years in my head. I was like, if I run a weekly seminar for 3 years in a row, it took the pressure off me from having to like perform. So I was like, if I show up and I suck every week for months, it doesn't matter because I'm just going to keep showing up and eventually I'm going to get good because I'm just going to keep practicing. But I actually got 5 sales in my first seminar, which was just not even a possibility. I didn't even think that was going to happen at all. I just showed up and gave my best. And sold from stage as well. It's hardcore sales
Wow.
from
Yeah.
stage selling. I'd never even spoke
Yeah.
before. So it was terrifying and awesome and liberating and unbelievable. Yeah, super cool.
That's unreal. And look, that seems to have been a theme for you in the sense, again, from the outside, and correct me if I'm wrong. You've gone on to do some just incredible things and uh, you know doing things outside of your comfort zone and like literally choosing seemingly, I won't say ridiculous, but just
Ah,
unusual ways of just expanding your emotional threshold. To, just tell us a little bit about, sort of that dynamic.
yeah, I definitely wouldn't call it an emotional threshold because like I wasn't in touch with my emotions at that point at all. But getting in touch with my emotions over the last few years has been a really pivotal season of my life, the most rewarding. But yeah, like I wanted to make it.
Yeah.
Like for my whole life when I was younger, I was like, it was kind of embedded into me from my dad. Like you got to do your best all the time, and he was very stern, and he was very critical of when he gave affirmation to me, and so I was always fighting for his love. So I always wanted to make it, and I always wanted to do something, but I was also simultaneously terrified of the world. So I was this shy, anxious little kid when I was like 5 years old, and I was starting prime. Like I was born into a drug abusive family, so it's very loud, a lot of arguing. Some loco shit happened where like my mum was held at gunpoint, drug crazy things happening. And so because of the environment, my dad was like friends with a lot of bikies and like I was terrified. I was just scared of the world. Like I was super shy. The principal of my primary school used to have to pull me off my mum's arms because I was so quiet and I was screaming. I didn't want to leave my mum. So I was a massive mama's boy. And I used to just do math sums at primary school and at recess and lunchtime. I used to do math sums by myself. And so I was terrified of the world, man. And what was the question?
Like
Oh yeah,
you've consistently done things
the fear
outside.
stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I had that like interesting like program from my dad of like be wildly successful, but then I was so fucking insecure at the same time. So it was this complete separation between that. And then, yeah, the thing that broke me through was when I was 18 and I left high school. I had some regrets of not talking to girls, doing leadership at school, extracurricular activities. I went to a really good school. I got a scholarship to a good school because I was so scared and so socially anxious. I lost a lot of confidence when my mum left me and my sister and my dad. I didn't see her for 4 years, from 13 to 17. And I just lost all confidence. I was very shy at the start of primary school. Then after mum left, the same thing happened. I lost all my confidence. I conditionally built it up by being good at things through primary school and the start of high school, and then went back to zero. And so, yeah, I was very, very socially anxious, and I was just a follower. I was just so scared of the world. But then when I left high school, I was like, I had a lot of regrets, and I just made an internal, I don't even know where this came from, but I just know it came after high school. And I was just like, fuck this. I've got to do anything that scares me, I'm going to do, because I'm sick of being held captive by fear. Like, I just identified that it was messing with my ability to talk to girls, which I really just wanted to find a girl and love a woman and just have an amazing partner. And that was something that I always wanted. I think it was like, because I didn't have the nurturing energy of my mum around after she left, I think I just craved that or something. But I really wanted a girlfriend, and I couldn't talk to girls. Like, I was terrified. And so I was like, fuck this. I'm going to work on all this stuff. I went to Toastmasters and started public speaking. That was fucking terrifying. I started going clubbing, and I didn't drink as well. I haven't drunk for like 12 years. I tried it when I was 16, but I go clubbing with a fake ID when I was like end of 17 years old, and just talk to strangers. I did a male strip show where I didn't, and just, which was crazy, just terrifying. I moved states as well to Perth, like I said before, and I got a sales job, and I started cold calling tradespeople to sell them websites. So I just did everything that scared me, and it changed my entire life. I could talk to girls. I started being a dating coach because I could just go to a shopping center and get like 8 girls' phone numbers, and I was just like, what is going on? And then, like, within 3 months of cold calling tradies to sell them websites, I had my first $6,000 a week. And I was like, from making $8 an hour at the golf course, I was like, what? I was just doing things that other people aren't willing to do. And $6,000 in a week for me was incomprehensible. I was like, fuck, I did that. And so my life just dramatically shifted from being courageous. And then I repeated that seasonally at a few different chapters in my life. And every time I did it, things just happened, like, worked really, really well for me from a success perspective, from an external perspective, until the same strategy stopped working. But that was where it all came from. It was the desire to just like break free from the shackles of fear, because I realized how much it held me back, and it caused so much pain for me living in that box, that I had to break out of it. And yeah, I feel like I hacked the matrix almost. That's how it felt at the time. Yeah.
Well, you certainly, again, I'm recalling you had sought out a lot of different mentors. I know over the years you've, similar to myself, I've probably invested, probably it wouldn't be $1 million, but it'd be fairly close. I know you've probably got a number that's probably up around there. And just again, just getting out of your comfort zone and doing different things. At what point did you recognize that there was a shift? And again, I might be being presumptuous, from moving away from fear and operating more from love and freedom.
Yeah, man. Well, my whole life has been a process of attempting to prove my value to myself and the world, to appease my dad subconsciously without realizing it. And this is a thing that everyone has their equivalent, some stronger than others and different strategies. But as Homo sapiens, as tribal beings, our psyche, our brain, our nervous system is designed to keep us alive. And as humans, we survive in numbers in the wild in tribes of 30 to 50 people. And so our software, our brain, is designed for 10,000 years ago, where we were living in the wild. And so we have this crazy, malleable, developmental brain that is like a sponge, and it takes in information, especially in our developmental stages. And we're essentially taught, hey, you got to sponge up how to live your life based on how the tribe teaches you. So you stay in alignment with the vision, mission, and values of the tribe, so you can be a cohesive participant in the tribe. And so we can function together and survive together with all our combining skills and whatnot. And we got to fit into that. And so because we're dependent upon the tribe, and in these days, our parents, for survival when we're a child, we're dependent. Like, we can't protect ourselves in the wild. Like, we need them to keep us safe. So we think that if we do what they want us to do, we're very perceptive to their cues, their positive and negative strokes. Yeah, you're doing good. Keep doing that. Don't fucking do that. do this, don't do that. And so we form what's called a survival script in our brain. And it's essentially like an invisible series of coding, programming, patterning of like, yo, do this, and then you'll be loved by me, and then I'll keep you safe. The problem is that this survival script, which can also be called like a personality or our ego, develops and it keeps us alive with our parents. But then when we go into the world, we take those same strategies and we think we're driving the car of our life down fucking success highway. We're actually in the passenger seat, and there's a 5-year-old kid that's behind the steering wheel just going crazy. And we're like, mate, don't take the fucking mediocrity turn off. Let's stay on dream highway. Or like, that's just not happening because we're not guiding the show. We're not running a show. And so for me, I very much had a personality that was based around, I need to achieve to be worthy of love. I need to succeed so my dad gives me love. And like I said earlier, it was very, very strict on me. I was like so fucking competent at sport and academics. I won the academic award in primary school, and I was the best football player in my league out of like 1,000 players by like 30% in terms of like the scores. I won the best player, but I cried at the end of the season because I thought I did so shit. So there was this crazy dynamic going in my mind where it's like, I have to prove myself to be worthy of love. And so that was driving me the whole fucking way through. I built a multi-million-dollar business with that same dynamic, grasping, attempting. I had a business that was doing over $4 million a year.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was shit. I was trying to get to 25 million. I thought then I'd feel good. And I was comparing myself with the people that were way further ahead than me. Then I wanted to get to 300 mil. And I just thought, I'm like sucking shit at the moment. And if I ever went away on like a retreat, I was running retreats around the world, Switzerland, Las Vegas, Thailand, Hawaii, all these amazing places. And I was just trying to get to the next point and the next point and the next point because my self-worth was on the line. And again, my survival was on the line from that dynamic, that psychological dynamic that we get programmed when we're younger from our parents. That survival script was like, dude, if you don't succeed, you're fucking dead. And so I didn't realize that until like I'm 29 now, until I was like 25. So like 3.5, 4 years ago was when a few things happened all at the same time. I hit some financial hardship in business. I became aware of the fact that I was trying to prove myself to the world, which shocked me because I literally thought I was an inspiration and I was like really helping all the people that I was coaching. I really thought that I was helping them, but I was trying to help them become somebody. And I thought they were nothing. I thought I was nothing, and I was trying to help them become something. And I thought I was something. And I genuinely thought I was helping. And as soon as I realized, holy fuck, I'm trying to prove myself to the world, I had an identity crisis because I felt like an imposter all of a sudden. I started meditating at the same time, having relationship problems at the same time. And when you meditate and you create space, you see things. When you're really busy, you miss things. But when you create potent space, when you meditate, I know you'll be aware, you really start seeing things. I started seeing all this awareness, and I had a huge identity crisis. I also had adrenal fatigue. It found out at the same time. So after it took me a few months to get the courage to do it, but I shut my business down. I initially cut costs because I was just like driving it for like my cost base was for 3 or 4 stages past where I was all the time. I was always just trying to go bigger and bigger and bigger.
Big, yeah.
Like $250,000, $300,000 a month worth of expenses. And then when I started cutting them, because most of them were unnecessary expenses, I pulled it back to like $30,000, $40,000 a month running the same business. And it was profit heavy, but I also built up tax debt. I also, in my heart, just wasn't aligned. As much as I tried to, I was like, fuck, this is great and great profit. I knew that it wasn't aligned anymore and I had to shut it down. And that was the hardest thing I've ever done. That was the most courageous thing I've ever done in my entire life, is shutting that business down and going against what I've got all my self-worth tied to.
Yeah.
And that was the shift. And when I started going, holy fuck, I need to learn something new. I don't know what it is at this point, but it's whatever's got me to this point. It's not going to get me to the next stage.
Well, it's quite a common dynamic, like high-performing entrepreneurs, which I'm sure you're aware, often have a difficult childhood, whether it's a trauma experience or whether it's, one or both parents showing up in a particular way that creates, the cliches, creates a wound.
Yeah.
It's for entrepreneurs and people in general, but entrepreneurs, I've noticed over the years, myself included, it's such a powerful driving force. But you're right, it'll only get you so far. And unless you're able to fill that void with your own self-love and self-awareness, no deal, no, new $1 million office, the new car, all of that. It's just then that what's next? What's next?
Yeah.
So it's good that you had that experience and had the courage to take a break, because as I'm sure you're aware, there's many entrepreneurs that don't come out the other side of it.
Yeah.
So what was the period of time there? Obviously, for those listening, you're in Austin, Texas now.
Yes.
Yeah. So you
hear that. Yeah.
It's which is awesome. I love it. Incredible place. I've got a few friends over there. It's meant to be. I've never been specifically, but it's meant to be incredible. So the few years there, what was your sort of healing process? Like what have you done, and what are you doing in terms of that side of things?
Yeah, I strike us as similar, you and and I feel like I'm sure you've done similar things to what I did, but I definitely went hard. I channeled that achiever energy into the healing process, and so I've averaged 90 minutes a day of meditation for the last 4 years. So that was a big part of it. And there was a stage there where it was 2.5 hours a day. I've done a bit of plant medicine as well to heal, and just a shit ton of healing work. Like when I say healing, seeing psychotherapists, psychologists, just all the modalities. So like Psych K, inner child work, NLP, EFT. I've been coached over the last 3 years. I've been coached over 500 times, like in healing sessions. So it's definitely multiple a week. It's been multiple a week for the last 3.5 years. Emotional release work, somatic release work, internal family systems, parts work.
Yeah.
All of it. Like every single thing that I could possibly do, I've done, because I just wanted to learn, and I'm a sponge and I love this space. So I'm like a massive student of the game, and just took a lot of space for myself. It was very difficult to make. The hardest part of the whole journey was making the decisions and being in, and which for me was being in the arena. I feel like sometimes you can attempt. I talk about like the spiritual, emotional, and practical, physical, logical layers of reality. And I feel like people approach their lives, usually have a preference of one or two of those, and lack integration between all three. It's like the meditations, the spiritual, the deep inner works, the emotional, and the practical is like the decision making in your life. And for me, in my life, shutting down the business was like the biggest growth thing I could possibly have done. And it was choosing to get rid of my material possessions, which was a massive fucking growth thing. And then it was choosing to have space and not do anything and have a lifestyle where I literally was learning to be okay without proving myself.
Yeah.
Like, and that was these, like, that's what I'm most proud of myself for, because they were the most difficult things to do, where I took away all those attachments, and also learning to be vulnerable in relationship and learning how to communicate, saying, like, breaking up with certain people, like just making the big life decisions that were true and aligned to my heart were the things that created the most transformation over that time. There's been a lot of like healing and meditation and inner child work, and learning about like more ancient spiritual wisdom, like yogic wisdom, Vedic wisdom, the Bhagavad Gita, this kind of stuff. Yeah. Tantra.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Well, look, most people just fill that gap with more stuff. They take a break for a little bit, and then they just very quickly jump onto the next thing. So there's a wisdom in taking some space and some time to recenter. Why did you decide to move to Austin?
I just wanted to quickly say first on that taking space thing. From my journey is to support people to live a life of freedom and fulfillment. That's my path. And what that means is that, like, there's such a connection to self-love and such a deep relationship with yourself, where you feel so full that you can be your authentic expression in the world and just know that you've got yourself if you fall in society standards. And so my obsession, my passion now is helping people have what I believe is the most courageous thing you can do, which is being in integrity with your truth and be the fullest authentic expression that you can be. And that to me is authenticity. That's freedom. I feel like a lot of people search for freedom outside of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, like I said, the most courageous thing I've ever done is to shut that business down ever. Like that's my most courageous thing, probably alongside like ending a few relationships that I've been in that I found very, very difficult to pull the trigger on. But like I feel like if you don't have the ability to honor your truth, then you're owned by whatever. Like you're owned by the external, you're owned by the world, and it's such a trapped feeling. And so many entrepreneurs have the least amount of freedom, not just because of the time and the obsession and the hard work and whatnot, but because they don't have a choice. They can't choose to show up without trying to prove themselves or swing their dick around and say, you're doing this, I'm doing this. And they're dropping all the numbers behind what they're doing. And they're owned by that. They don't have, if they want to have a week off, they can't. Yeah. They literally cannot do it. And they're completely held captive. And it's just not a way to live. And what I've noticed, and this is what I noticed when I was at my highest peak of financial and material success, is that I was so insecure. And there were some people that had a lot less money than me that would show up in a room with this sense of grounded confidence. And I didn't understand how I could get it. I was just like, I can feel that there's something different between that person and me. But my mind was saying, why don't, like, they're not even that good, is kind of what I was saying. They're not even that successful. Why are they feeling so good? Like, I don't get it. And there's this integrity that comes with owning what's truthful for you. And that can mean, like, it can take so much courage to say, I'm not fucking working today. Fuck it. I've got shit to do. I'm pushing it back. I don't give a shit. I'm not in this. I'm just in this to own my truth. I don't care about if I'm making more money or not. I care most about being in alignment with my heart, in alignment with my integrity and my authenticity. So an example for me recently is, I don't even know why, but I just felt like dropping my price points with one-to-one coaching. And I already had clients who were paying me a certain figure, and I lessened my figures by more than half. That just makes no financial sense. Like, they're already paying me and in contract for a long time and not missing payments or anything like that. And I lowered my price point because it felt right to me. Now, you might be like, that's just stupid. What a stupid move. But for me, I get so much self-respect and self-worth and integrity in myself, just honoring that truth. But that truth might have been to increase the price point. It's not like decreasing it's better or increasing it's better. It was just the fact that I made that decision. And I'm the same thing when, like, I just, like, my main intention is integrity, and that's what creates the grounded confidence. And so I just really want to put that message out there for those that are listening and may not be feeling this sense of deep conviction and dignity in who you are. You deserve to feel that way, but that's not going to come from anything that you do outside of yourself. It's going to come from or prove or any measurement that you have. The content of your life and the results you get is just fucking irrelevant. You will get way bigger results long term anyway, but it's where like, you're going to find the fulfillment that you're looking for and the freedom that you're looking for in just being not unapologetically with a deep sense of love, an open heart, but just being the most aligned to who you feel you're meant to be in those moments, and just having fucking absolute love and compassion and deep truth and integrity and authenticity with yourself. There's nothing that you're going to find in this life more. It's the top regret. If Bronnie Ware's the top 5 regrets of the dying, the palliative care nurse that saw thousands of people cross to the other side and saw them on their deathbeds, the top regret was, I wish I had the courage to live my life true to me, not the life that others expected of me. And entrepreneurs feel like, I'm leading my life and I'm in charge and I'm not employed by anyone else, but they're trying to prove themselves to society standards or their dad's standards. And so they think that they're doing it from their own authenticity, but they're really disconnected from their truth and fucking owned by the success, owned by the desperate attempt at proving themselves to the world, but they don't even realize that. And that's why they're feeling so insecure. And so that to me is just like a message that's so important to put out there. And there's so much liberation and freedom that you listeners deserve it. You so deserve it. And it's super liberating. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Before that?
It's like a transmission. I love it. So there's a few people on the line. Any comments while Ryan's talking or we're having this discussion? Like, please put your comments in the chat. Ryan, what is your take on if you're feeling out of alignment? How does that show up, and what can we do to bring ourselves back into that sense of grounded authenticness and congruency? How do we catch it, and then what do we do?
Yeah, it's a great question, man. I just want to say hey to those that are on. Adam, Callum, Chris, Helen, Stephanie. So great to have you guys on. I didn't realize I could see who was on. Now I'm like, yes.
Adam, loving the message. Thanks for the bold openness. You and Adam should talk. Adam's running a great podcast that I reckon you two should have a chat about it.
There. If Adam feels like he'd like me on, I'd love to be on. So in terms of alignment, one thing that we're really disconnected from, and Wim Hof has a quote on this, something along the lines of like, through work and life, so many people have buried their inner voice and their connection to their gut, their ability to listen to their inner truth. And it looks like confusion, reactivity, lack of clarity. And this is what I call the intellect. So the intellect's looking, it's like, I see the intellect as the gatekeeper of the nervous system. It's like a warrior that's used by the nervous system, and the nervous system's sole desire for us in our entire lives is to keep us alive and keep us safe. And it believes safety is going to come through the familiarity and control. Okay. So the intellects all wanting control, comfort, familiarity. But then we have this big inner conflict because we got the opposite intention coming from our heart or our intuition. Heart, like intellect, head, heart, intuition. The heart I see is like, if I want you guys that are listening to imagine a big mountain and there's like clouds above the mountain, and God, he or she is putting their hand through the clouds and dangling your dream at the top of the mountain. And so it's like the universe wants change, innovation, increasing complexity. It's the only constant that we have. And so God is trying to get you excited about moving in the direction of your dreams and excite you enough to lure you up the mountain where you're going to grow, where it's unfamiliar, where it's risky. And it's the opposite of the desire of the intellect that wants control and familiarity. And so we have this huge inner conflict because we have these dreams, but then we're so pulled into our comfort zone by fear, which is the nervous system's like we're like it's a function. It's a really powerful function as well. It's not something to be demonized. It's just old technology though, because we're not in the wild anymore. And so most of us have disconnected from that feeling of intuition. Like Wim Hof said, we've buried it because we've stopped listening. And it feels really confusing because the intellect is trying to control and get things right and make sense of things. And it's so out of integrity because it will just split to any narrative it can possibly. It's like a manipulating. It's legit like a, what do I call it? Like the intellect's hypnotic prison. It's just like this absolute, really intelligent mechanism that's constantly firing in your head to try to make sure that you're in control of staying familiar. So it'll say anything it needs to you. It'll give you all the excuses in the world. It'll just try to do anything to keep you safe. And it does a fucking good job. And this is why Tony Robbins says people will avoid pain more than they will move towards pleasure, because pain's potential death. It's threat. It's jeopardizing safety. And so the nervous system, the intellect's going for control, but then we have our heart going the other way. And so we don't stop and listen in this world much anymore. We're so reactive. There's so much comparison. We're so distracted. And like I said, when we're really busy, we miss things. We're disconnected from that alignment, that authenticity, that inner truth. But when we create space, and all space could be 30 minutes without your phone, a notepad sitting anywhere, doesn't even matter where, and just do nothing. Just have your notepad there and your pen and just write without even thinking. And shit's going to come out that's way more brilliant than what you could figure out or your friends could give you advice on. Sally said this, but my friend said this, but I know that Deepak Chopra says this, but David Goggins is like, no, you need to go after it. It's like, that's all outside of yourself. And when you're seeking and grasping, because the intellect's so confused and so overwhelmed that it's just trying to keep you safe and familiar. And there's this massive inner conflict between your heart's desire to thrust you into the unknown, where you're going to grow, to follow your dreams, where there's no control, and then your head's wanting all the control. It's very, very, we lose our integrity when we're living in that safety. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't have compassion for our nervous system. But when you create the space and you listen and you feel what feels aligned, it doesn't even have to make sense. The less sense it makes, the better. But when you know, because you know, when you take time to have space, you know what's aligned and what's not aligned. And that's why people will ask when it comes to big decisions, trust your gut. It's like even Steve Jobs says, like, trust your heart and intuition. It somehow already knows who you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary. Albert Einstein said, the only real thing is intuition. And this is a fucking inventor. I've got these like 25 quotes that are just of like J. Cole, the rapper, Princess Diana, Sharon Osbourne, The Rock, just all these people that are just like, I only listen to my gut. I only listen to my heart. I only listen to my inner voice. And what happens is when you listen to that and take the space to feel into what's aligned, and you listen and you trust it, and you give yourself permission to go after whatever that thing is, doesn't fucking matter what the content is, then it creates this conviction, this alignment, this integrity that no one else or nothing else's voice matters. That space, like, because it doesn't just have to be when you're making a massive career decision of whether you pivot left or right. Every day, you could just be sitting there right now after this, like in this podcast or after this podcast, and be like, what the fuck do I do now? I kind of want to go out for dinner, but I kind of want to do some work. Close your eyes, put a hand on your heart, and just get curious and just trust that the feeling will come. And then when you can tap into that feeling and you know that it feels right, because you can know, we know, especially the more we practice it, the more clear we get as well. But the more that you take the time to listen, I've got a whole modality on this, by the way. I'm actually releasing it all for free. A whole fucking modality. It's like 6 hours worth of trainings on this method that I created called the Core Method. And it's like, how do you do this process, essentially? But when you listen and you discern and you choose what you wanted, what feels right for you, and you have the courage, the Latin root word of courage is core. And the method that I created is called the Core Method. But core means heart. When you have the courage, like courage means heart. When you've got the heart to follow your heart and say yes to what feels right, you build this sense of dignity and conviction in yourself. And you stop outsourcing your confidence and outsourcing your certainty and outsourcing what's right or wrong based on what this guru says and that thought letter says, or what your mom says and what your wife says and what your friends say. You just can just trust your gut. And one of my favorite quotes is that intuition serves every party involved. If it really feels aligned and it really feels right, you might think you're robbing someone by making some choice, but every single time it's giving them a gift and the world a gift because you're in alignment. And that's how it takes a lot of practice, but that's the general gist of it.
That's awesome. So when you're considering making a particular change in your life and you're taking that time out and you're making that space and you're connecting to your heart, what are your thoughts on the connection to that process and discovering your life's purpose, like your dharma? Is that the same process that you start to discover that, or do you have another process to start to realize what your life purpose and life path is?
It's a fucking awesome question, man. I'm actually going to be building modules for my 12-month program, Heart Warriors, on purpose and dharma. I believe that if you just start with listening and start moving, it becomes clearer over time. But I do know that people have a rough gist of an area that they can go in. And I love this quote from, it's not directly from the Bhagavad Gita, but it's from a summary of the Bhagavad Gita, this book called The Great Work of Your Life by Stephen Cope. It's like one of the best books I've ever read. Seriously, it's fucking amazing. And there's this quote, this idea that says, if you bring forth what is within you to the world, it'll liberate you. And if you don't, it'll destroy you. And it's essentially like, and it's so fucking true. And so a lot of us try to negate this idea that there's purpose. But if you listen deeply enough, there'll be something that you kind of know that you want to do, but it's really hard to tap into the clarity of what that is when you're kind of still under the spell of the head, the intellect's desire for safety. Like I ran a training yesterday. I'm in the middle of running a challenge at the moment called the Fearless and Free Challenge. And I was talking, like I break down super in depth, like the biology of fear and the psychology of fear, just really in depth, like 2-hour training on each of them. And I posed this question: if you didn't have the fear of rejection, what's possible? What would you be doing differently? And people couldn't answer the question, because like they literally couldn't answer the question. I was like, I couldn't answer and give you a shit ton of answers myself, because I still know that that I have the fear of rejection there and present. And if I didn't have it, I'd do this, and this. And I list out 15 things. But because the intellect's got such a powerful spell over them and over most people, and it's not something to feel guilty about, it's just something to understand and to bring awareness to, because we are so desperately trying to stay safe in our nervous systems that the idea of entertaining the heart and the unknown is just overwhelming for the nervous system, and we don't do it. But that spell, while it's there, the possibility of entertaining your dharma and the dream that sits in there, it's not accessible usually for people right at the start. You got to do a little bit of delayering first, which can come from some space and some meditation and some just trusting one step at a time from where you are, listening a little bit and just taking one step, small steps, honoring it, holding conviction and being so proud of yourself. I just did that one thing. I just said that one thing to that person at work, and that was one truth. And then before you know it, there's going to be enough space that's opened up where you've now created the space to be able to look deeper and find what that, because it's already in there. Like if I probed any one of you guys enough and went deep enough into this, I'd be able to uncover, if I asked you the questions, if you were going to die in a year's time, what would you do vocation wise if you had to devote the next year to your mission or purpose? Like, what would you do? If you knew you had to work every single day for the rest of your life and you're going to live to 120, you had to work from 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. every single day and never retire, what would you choose to do? If you knew you couldn't fail, what would you choose to do? And so I like to just throw out some random questions like this, and it'll start to get people thinking, and then they open up to the idea, and it's almost like scared to speak it. Oh, I guess I would. And or it's like, would you be doing what you're currently doing? Is also another question, and the answer most of the time will be no. Even with me, when I was running Winning International and I was helping life coaches get clients, the whole time I was running that, all I wanted to be teaching was mindset, but I was teaching business and mindset, but I was justifying it by weaving mindset into it. I didn't want to be teaching business the whole time. I was like planning to grow my brand for 10 years, build it to, what was my goal? Was to build it to 10 million followers. And then I was going to launch big Tony Robbins style, unleash the power within, my version of that, and start doing a transformational event teaching mindset. But I didn't, like, you could have said, hey, look how on purpose he is. He's a coach, he's speaking. But I was doing a lot of things that I didn't want to do. I was playing the CEO role where I was overlooking and also deep in, even though I had an operations manager, I was still pretty heavily involved in operations and overseeing the business. That's not even my dharma. I don't even fucking like doing that, to be honest with you. I like making decisions and strategy, but I did not like the running of the business. I just wanted to fucking speak all the time, but I didn't have the courage to execute that. So I would have, at that point, I wasn't even ready to entertain the idea of just being full-time into my actual passion. And I would look from the outside like a big speaker, guru, thought leader with 100,000 followers. People would be like, he's way on passion, way on purpose. I wasn't. I was where I needed to be at that time, but I wasn't deep into my dharma because I was still under the hypnosis of the head, the hypnosis of the intellect, and I was still trying to stay safe. And my attachment at that point was the externals to reflect my value of, like, if I'm working with business owners and I'm selling $20,000 programs and I'm doing over $4 million in business, and then I'm growing it to 25 million, blah, 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 all these big numbers, then I'm like recognized as someone that's worth celebrating. But if I just switch and pivot, which is what I do now, by the way, my course at the moment, got 11 people in it, $75 a week. It's $3,000 for the year. I don't give a shit about the money. Like I do care about the money. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm driven. I'm good at business. It's going to expand. But I just launched this thing and it's straight from the heart. I teach exactly what I love, and I'm fucking on purpose now, like deep in my Dharma. But I had to unlayer the hypnosis of the head to be able to bury into that depth of the truth of what was underneath the onion layers and the masks and the insecurities and the fears of admitting to myself that I wanted to be a speaker full time. It took a really good coach to point it out to me. Preston Smiles, like 9 months ago, he's like, do you really want it? Because I went back into helping coaches again, because I was like, want to get quick money and just like get the money first and then do it. And he's like, do you actually want to be doing that in 4 years? And I'm like, no. And then that day I stopped the program, and it took me like 6 months to figure out what I wanted to do next. And my finances weren't in the best place either, but I fucking commit to integrity. And so, yeah, man, like, how do you find the purpose? I think first, just opening up to the idea that it's going to be the opposite of what you feel is going to make you safe. And you look at all the people that have the most freedom in the world, that are most on Dharma, like people that are deep in integrity with what they love to do. Random people like Steve Irwin before he passed away, he's like working as the croc hunter, or you look at people like David Attenborough, or you look at people like Lady Gaga or Tony Robbins, and these people are like fucking on purpose. And then we look at them and pedestal them and think they're different to us. Tony Robbins, he's different. Lady Gaga, she's different. Conor McGregor, he's different. He's just some freak athlete, or he just happens to have lots of certainty. Well, I've got news for you guys. We are no different right now. Jeremy and I, we're exactly the same. All of you guys, you're the same as us. And we're the same as Tony Robbins. We're the same as Barack Obama. We're the same as Tiger Woods, whoever it is. And the reason why is because I've got a heart, like an actual, like a biological heart, like an organ in my body that pumps blood around my body the same way as it pumps blood around yours. I've got bones. I've got a skeletal system. I've got a digestive system. I've got a nervous system, and my nervous system works the same as your nervous system. If I go to do something that I'm afraid of, it pumps adrenaline and cortisol through my system. I feel like I'm going to fucking die. And everything in my intellect, the defender of the nervous system, like I said, is telling me, yo, don't fucking do that because you're going to die. And Lady Gaga, when she makes a pivot or a shift to do something that excites her and feels aligned for her, because intuition for me, or following my heart by definition, scares the shit out of you and excites the shit out of you, but it feels expansive. Now, if Lady Gaga is doing something that, like, she's pivoting to a different style of music, she's going to be feeling the adrenaline and cortisol in her body and feeling like she's going to die, just like you would, even if you're in a normal corporate job and you ask Diane, the manager, if you can move into a slightly different segment of the business. The adrenaline and cortisol that's going through your body is the same as what's going through Lady Gaga. There's no different. You have a heart. She has a heart. You've got a dream. She has a dream. The only difference is, are you able to be present with the fear, honor the truth of what you really want to do, and go after it? And this is, Will Smith says, greatness is not some elusive, godlike, esoteric character that only the special among us possess. It's something that truly exists in every one of us. And when I hear that, it's kind of like, oh yeah, when I first heard that, I was like, whatever. But now I understand how every human's the same. We all have a heart. Now, what's planted deep within the seed of our soul of what our Dharma and purpose is different, sure. But we have the same choice. We've got fear and we've got freedom. We've got intuition, we've got intellect. We've got our heart, we've got our head. And we all feel the same fear. And I feel like that really humanizes and levels the playing field, because then I don't look at Conor McGregor and think he's some superhuman, because I realize that he's also got a nervous system. He also feels like he's going to die when he puts his hand up and says, I'm going to challenge this fighter to some big super fight. He's petrified. He's just choosing it. He's just choosing his heart. When I launched this program, which is $75 a week, even though I've run shit ton of $20,000 programs, I was terrified. I felt like I was going to die in my nervous system, literally. Adrenaline, cortisol. I felt like I was going to fucking die. Now, Jeremy, if he pivots to some new thing that he feels like is the next aligned step, he's going to feel like he's going to die. If Donald Trump, when he went to go for president, guarantee you shitting himself. Everyone does, because he doesn't not have a nervous system. He doesn't not get scared. We're all programmed with the same innate fears. Everyone's the fucking same. And what that means is that your purpose and your heart is just as relevant as any celebrity that you might have pedestaled, because you've disconnected and forgotten that we're all just a fucking Homo sapiens, biologically the same. And we all have a heart, we all have a soul, we all have a mission, we all have purpose. It's just, do you believe in what I'm saying? Do you allow it to drop? And that doesn't mean you need to just like teleport to doing this crazy, scary shit. You just need to do the next thing that feels aligned for you, and then blink your eyes in 20 years and you will be a fucking massive celebrity in whatever your heart's pulling you to do, which is like, whether it's charity or mentorship or it's working with animals, or it doesn't matter what it is. Like, it's your beautiful, unique flavor and purpose in the world. But just giving yourself permission to realize that you're not any worse or lower or different than anybody else, I think such a fucking gift. And I literally, like, mark my words for myself. This is coming from a place of massive self-love right now. I'm 100% going to be some big fucking thought leader, wherever my heart leads me, because it's impossible not to, because I know that I'll just follow my alignment for the rest of my life, which means that I'm always going to be feeling, not every single day, but when I know, okay, this is the next step that I need to take, I'm going to feel like I'm going to die in my nervous system, and I'm going to fucking do it anyway. And I'm just going to arrive at some amazing place and have all these beautiful milestones on the journey. And I guarantee, I can't foresee where I'm going to be in 20 years time, but I'm telling you, it's going to be something magical. It's going to be something incredible. And you could do the same thing. And so can Jeremy. We all deserve it. We all deserve it. And I just know it's true. 100%.
Beautiful.
Rant over.
So look, obviously speaking is within your zone of genius. I mean, it's a part of it. I can feel what you're saying. It's coming out. What would you say for someone who's in or has a business, and they're recognizing that they're not operating in their zone of genius in their own business? What would your advice be to them?
Yeah, I would ask them a tough question, which would be, do you care more about money and success, or do you care more about fulfillment? What's more important to you? And if the answer is success, then and anything else I say is irrelevant, because I don't work with people that prioritize success, number one. I work with people that care about to me, the freedom and fulfillment is what I work with people. And for those people that actually prioritize that, the money just comes as a byproduct. But usually people are more attached to success, and usually people are more attached to comfort and their comfort zone and safety and whatever. And I don't work with people that are in that category, because they're not prioritizing. Because for me, fulfillment, the definition, I just made this up, the consistent quality of the experience of your life. The consistent quality of the experience of your life. I know I'm going to die at some point, and I know, like, I believe in reincarnation. I believe that we choose karmic parents for a karmic growth, and we're going to be here for some purpose. But I also know that I'm going to die, and I don't believe in legacy, really. I believe in like integrity, but I don't believe in legacy, because I don't believe that Ryan Magic is going to be remembered. The Earth's been here for 4.5 billion years. That's 56 million blocks of 80 years, the average adult Western lifespan. Yeah. 56 million of them.
Hard to comprehend.
Yeah. See, if you think, I want to ask the people that are listening, what's your great grandparents? What are their names? Guarantee you don't know.
Only a couple of generations back.
Exactly.
I've got it written down somewhere, but not off the top of my head.
And great grandparents were alive 150 years ago, which is less than 2 lifespans back, right? There's been 56 million lifespans back, and there'll be 56 million in the future. So we're not talking 2, which we don't even remember our great grandparents. So if we think of someone like Steve Jobs or Larry Bird or Michael Jordan, 10 lifespans in the future, 800 years, no one's going to know who Michael Jordan is. 100 lifespans, which still isn't that many in the big scheme of things, it's nothing. That's 8,000 years in the future. I don't know anyone from 8,000 years ago. No one does, right? It's just not going to happen. We can't obtain, we don't even care about tennis players from 100 years ago. That's 100 years ago. That's like one block in 20 years. So it's like people play for legacy under the fear of death. But I play for like the consistent quality of the experience of my life, which doesn't mean I just care about feeling good every day and I'm like sitting on a beach. For me, what creates that fulfillment? One thing, listening to my heart. And my heart will tell me sometimes, push through and work on this, and to challenge myself feels good. Sometimes it's like, my heart's like, pull back and rest and have the day off. Sometimes my heart's like, You need to process this emotion. But I just listen to my heart 100% of the time. And that creates the highest my life is fucking incredible, but it's not like lived linear logically in any strategy other than just following my heart for the rest of my life. So when someone's in a business, to answer your question, someone's in business and they want to know, what do I do if I'm not fully in my genius zone? I was like, I would say, do you care about success more, or do you care about fulfillment more? And I know that most of the people, especially the more successful people, care more about success, and they're more attached to it because their self-worth is tied to it. That's why the most courageous thing I've ever done was actually shutting my business down. But I was in Entrepreneurs Organization, which is this 12,000 strong global organization of entrepreneurs doing over $1.5 million a year, and way more. The average staff for an entrepreneur in there has 250 employees. And so 7 other people I'd catch up with monthly in this group, people that every month we share deep vulnerability with, so much love through that vulnerability, so much connection. I fucking love these guys to bits. I'm not in that group anymore. But no one, like every single person in there struggles with the question you just said. And they all know it. And they all can't do anything about it. Yeah. They all know that so I'm just going to, it's confidentiality, so I can't give you specific examples. I'm going to make up an example that's very similar to something that is very common in there. Let's say someone owns a veterinary clinic. They love animals, but they play the CFO role. They've just gone into CFO or CEO, but they just really would love to work with the animals. They don't give themselves time for it. They know that that's what they love most. And they beat themselves up and they just put themselves through the ringer, and they've got more money than you could ever imagine, like 50 mil in the bank. I'm talking big numbers and stuff. And they don't need any more money. But if they drop their profit $2 million a year, then they're fucking just pissed at themselves. And that they're going to gun hard to beat it the next year. They don't even need to work anymore. But still, they do the things in the business that they don't love the most in substitute for what they think they need to do to be most successful, because they're attached to it and they can't shake that. So for me, I didn't give a fuck I would not sacrifice a cent for my alignment. If I was going to make $1 million more, $5 million more in a year, but I had to do 2% less of what feels aligned to my heart, no way. There is no way I'd do that. And that brings so much integrity. That's what I was talking about, that conviction. So if you're not in your genius zone in your business, my advice would be give yourself grace to transition to that point. But you've got to really ask yourself that, you're not just going to shift. I know I'm talking intensely about it because I'm passionate about it, but don't expect yourself just to shift instantly to being this, I just do what I love thing. This has developed for me over the last 3.5 years of getting to that point. But just asking yourself that question, do you want to put your central point of focus in life at trying to create, win one little piece of the game, or do you want to win the entire game? Because financial abundance is one tiny piece of the game of life. Fulfillment's the all-encompassing everything. For me, fulfillment means the consistent quality experience of one life, which is made up by deep inner peace, deep connection with people, feeling really on purpose, having lots of time freedom. What else? Confidence, having a lot of conviction and integrity in myself, and then massive authentic expression. They're the factors for me, all those factors. And so, yeah, I'd just say give yourself permission to live a life that's actually going to yield the best life. The best life to me is the quality of my life's the best. I've just got the highest consistent quality of the experience of my life. Why would I play for success? Because most people are driving for success. I haven't met anyone that's driven for success and just been success, and not actually reached a point where they're why the fuck am I even doing this? And so if you can just hack the matrix, I know that sounds a little bit kind of conspiracy theorist, so let's just move that language to the side. Why don't we just jump in now and just say, fuck it, I actually care about living my best life and not being owned by what society told me is good. So if you can answer that question and say, no, why the fuck would I be caring about success more than fulfillment? Because the success is going to come when you prioritize integrity with yourself, because you walk around with 1,000,000 times more confidence, and that conviction leads to good results in what you do anyway. But you've got to be able to remove that attachment to the success first, and then fucking jump into your genius zone. and discern from your heart what's appropriate step by step to transition to that point. Because if you ask your heart's probably not going to be like, cool, quit the business today and just go broke. Your heart's going to be like, what's needed next is I'm just going to pivot those 2 staff members out, and I'm going to spend a little bit more time this week doing this, and then the next step, and then the next step, and all of a sudden you're in your genius zone full time. But you've got to be able to prioritize fulfillment first. Yeah.
Beautiful. Now you've got a new program, Heart Warrior. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It just juices me. It's my baby. It's my genius zone full time. Yeah, absolutely. So I launched this 12-month program where as the basis of the program, I teach the modality, the core method, and then essentially the 3 facets to the program. There's it's 3 weeks on, 1 week off, 12-month program. So there's an integration week every 3 weeks because it's relatively intense. But what happens every week is there's something called the courageous choice. And what happens is everyone in the group as a tribe, as a collective, have to identify one thing in their heart, and there's a process and a ritual and a guided thing to be able to identify what this is, something that scares the shit out of them and excites the shit out of them, and something they can execute that week that's generally like terrifying. Then, because I teach so much about the nervous system and so much about the science behind fear and whatnot, they then identify what the thing is they're going to do, and then they write out all the different fears that they genuinely have to do with that, just being aware of it and identifying it. And what that does is it makes them go, oh shit, I'm scared about this thing, because there would just be resistance to it for most people. They wouldn't even identify the thing. But when you're aware of what fears exist and why they exist, and you write them all out, then everyone else in the group and them get to go, oh shit, that person's doing this week. Holy crap. They're going to reach out to 20 radio stations and speak about their passion at like helping with mental health. Fuck, that sounds scary. Let's look at all the fears that they wrote down. Oh, they're really fucking scared of being rejected, which is a normal social fear of social rejection that everyone biologically has programmed into them. Okay, cool. They've also had like their whole life, the Enneagram arc, like personality type of the peacekeeper. And they identify, okay, cool, I'm nervous of conflict. And so me reaching out and asking radio stations scares the shit out of me because I'm scared I'm going to get rejected. And that goes against my whole fucking personality. And they write that out. And then someone else in the group has identified their thing, but they're reading this other person's going, holy shit, this person's reaching out to 20 radio stations. Their whole personality tells them that that's the worst thing they could possibly do. They're terrified of social rejection. And then they go, oh, holy crap, I'm not alone. And then everyone knows that if they trust fall back into the fruits of what's to come off this implementation piece that they're going to do for the week, everyone knows that success or failure, it's okay, because everyone's going through the same thing. And like someone asked me the other day, like, what's the best piece of advice you could give someone for going over fear? And I was like, go through it with other people. Because if anyone does a hell camp or like training for the Navy SEALs, the shit that they put people through, sleep deprivation, ridiculous exercise, no one would be able to do that by themselves.
Do it by yourself. Yeah.
It'd be impossible, like actually impossible. And even with other people, it's almost impossible. But they get through it somehow because there's other people there. And so when it normalizes, when the culture normalizes of people being courageous and identifying from their deep in their heart what they really want to do, but they're fucking terrified of it at the same time, and they're doing it 3 out of 4 weeks a month, they build the habitual flow of being courageous in their life and embody that over a 12-month process. And there is nothing that would be more success, like create more success, not even by a small amount. Doesn't matter whether you do a $50,000 mastermind, $20,000 mastermind. There is no program that will create more results if you're ready to step into it than doing the fucking Heart Warriors container. That's one thing. Then every week we do a thing called a heart healing, which is just going into all the different modalities behind healing and creating awareness around what people's strategies or psychology is, and more self-awareness every single week, creating more emotional threshold and bandwidth to have the space to hold their dreams. So it's like emotional, somatic release work, inner child work, trauma work, NLP, just like every modality you can imagine. I've done so much study on this stuff, but I just guide people through different emotional releases and healings. And then with the intention of helping them learn to feel safer in their own body and regulate their nervous system, build more awareness over the brain or the heads, the intellect strategies in general, but then also their specific strategies within that. And then actually getting the release and creating the emotional space to be able to hold more for what they desire. So we do that every week. And then there's a connection activity that they do with other people in the group. And then there's trainings on health, trainings on tribe, communication, conflict resolution, relationship, tantra. There's just like a lot of trainings as well. So it's pretty fucking hardcore, to be honest with you, for the price point.
That's awesome. And so if
yeah.
someone wanted to get involved with that with you, or just reach out and connect with you, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, hit me up on Instagram at the Ryan Magic. It's that container for me. It's not the sort of thing where I'm just like, come on in. It's like you put in an application. If it feels really expansive for you, then you fill out an application form. I'll then reflect back to you based on your answers, whether I think it's the right place that you're looking for. Because I only love working with people that are, like I said, they prioritize fulfillment, they prioritize freedom, and I can create that for you. But for people that are like really attached to the how and they want the details and they're more in their head and they're just looking for a get rich quick, it's just not the fucking space for it at all. And that will jeopardize the quality of the experience for everyone else. So just shoot me a message at the Ryan Magic on Instagram. I'd love to connect with you anyway. It would be such an honor if there's something that kind of like stood out for you about the chat today. I would love to hear about it. Seriously, it means a lot to me. And I'll just shoot you more information about it. And you can watch the video. I just do a 20-minute rant on what the program's about. And then you can just feel into it and go, yeah, this is something I'd love to apply for. And if so, I'll just send you the application form and I'll tell you whether I think it's aligned. And if you want to join, you just join. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Well, I'm super appreciative of your time today. That hour's gone. That's just absolutely blown past. So
so fun, man.
Thanks, it's been really great to connect. I would love to do this again at another stage.
Yeah, same.
But I'm speaking for everyone who's listening here live, and obviously people listening on the replay. It's been really, really great hearing your experience, and can really feel you are living into your purpose, and there's a real connection with your words. And Chris is saying here, amazing, the genuine feeling and transparency was just wow. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, so speaking on my behalf, thank you for spending the time with us today, and really deeply honor the work that you're doing. And I absolutely encourage anyone that's listening to reach out to Ryan and see if there's a connection there as well. Beautiful.
Thank you. Can we do one thing before we wrap up? And for those that are listening as well, is that okay, Jeremy?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. All right. You don't even know what it is.
No.
But just quickly, Adam, hit me up about the podcast on Instagram. Would love to jump on. And Stephanie, who else do we have on? Before you guys go, Callum, Adam, Jeremy, Brian, Chris, Stephanie, Callum, Adam. So I love just taking a moment just to feel into the gratitude of the opportunities that we all have. Like, this is super special. And what Jeremy's created here, like, I'm so grateful for the opportunity, man. Seriously. So I'd love just to like do a little gentle eye gaze for you, just for like 30 seconds or something like that, and just really feel the gratitude for it. And I'd love those of you that are listening and watching to send us some love. Like, seriously, like really feel it and try to receive the love that's coming from us, but just appreciating the moment, because I've been going to fucking border gate here the whole time. And like, I've been feeling good about the whole thing, but I really want to take it in, So let's do it. Thanks, brother. Thanks, everyone, for that love. And I just want to say quickly, Jeremy, you're a really embodied leader, man. And I'm super grateful to, have held the space with you. I know it's kind of like I held the mic for most of that, but I really respect you. And I really love your devotion to doing the work across all the layers the deep spiritual work, the emotional work, the practical way. And I've seen your transformation across the years as well, and really looked up to you, man. And so I just want to say thanks for being an embodied leader, and thanks for showing up and holding such a beautiful space for me to shine doing what I love. It means a lot to me, man. So thank you.
Beautiful. All right. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, guys. This has been fucking awesome.
Awesome, man.
All right. We'll talk soon.